Get back on the channel with Don't Go Alone just to get along. We have Albert Audax back in studio. Actually, he's in King of Boney, which is in Dar es Salaam, a small island, about a 15-minute ferry ride, if that, maybe more like a 10-minute ferry ride from Dar es Salaam fish market over to King of Boney. Uh, Albert has a few things that he want to dive into that he wants to speak about in regards to Uganda. So I'm gonna pretty much let him have the floor, and I'll just be a fly on the wall, as they say. I'll be the audience. If you have questions for me, obviously, I'll be answering those questions. And again, we're gonna let Albert speak his truth and share some things that's been on his mind in respect to Uganda. So without further ado, I'm gonna pass it over to Albert.
Okay, thanks a lot, Aaron.
No worries.
So, in the past few days, we had this issue of Uganda signing the anti-gay agreement that they're not going to tolerate the gay people in their country. And what actually happened is the Western countries were very furious on the signature on the agreement that he signed that he's not going to accept the gay marriages in Uganda, and this led to him not receiving aid. They told him he's not going to get aid in Uganda because he's not accepting the gay people in Uganda. So my question is, how, like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on on Uganda and the Western countries imposing that the threats of not giving aid? And moreover, Museveni said that aid is also a problem to African countries. It's a problem to us Africans. So, what is your take? What do you see as our fellow African? We're all Africans. What are your thoughts as an African who's living in the United States?
So I want to make sure I get this right. Did you say, I know you said that they won't provide the country,
Aid.
speaking of Uganda, with aid. Did you
Yeah.
also say that AIDS, AIDS, like the disease, is a
No, no,
problem in the
no,
country?
not the disease. I'm talking about the help.
Help.
They
Yeah, I
say
got
they
that part. Okay. I
the
didn't know if
aid.
you were saying, that
No.
also AIDS is a problem in the country as well. So I got you.
Uh,
Um, because actually well, that's a whole nother conversation. But so unfortunately, there's a saying that there's nothing new under the sun, Albert. And you
mm,
do have a system, speaking of European, British, obviously America,
mm,
they have been doing this for a long time. This is not something that's new. Unfortunately, they've been doing it for a very long time. Even going back to, the other past administrations, that's their thing. They force their desires on Africa. And when Africa, leadership say, we don't want any parts of that, then they actually impose these sanctions or say, we're not going to provide you with aid, which is essentially a part of a sanction. So man, it's pathetic. That's why, I feel like Africa just need to cut them off. Cut America off. Stop. Cut these European countries off. Stop doing business, and even the other foreign countries, because it's not just the European countries or the extension of America by European countries. It's also the Indian countries, China, Arab countries. All these countries treat Africa like it's little whore. And I'm just being honest. That's exactly how they treat Africa, like it's their little whore. And Africa has to just leave them alone. There's going to be a difficult transition when you do that, because these countries like what they're doing. They like the fact that they can come in and
mm,
basically impose their will, take the resources that they feel is great for their economy and their way of life, and then in addition to that, further their agenda, which simply means continue to push, their way of thinking, so they can basically work towards what we all have heard of in terms of these new world organizations, or systems where they can have everybody doing exactly what they want them to do. So that's my thoughts on it. It's real simple at the end of the day, but it takes what we call drawing a line in the sand, meaning say, I'm not going to take this no more. I'm not going to settle for this anymore. And this is what we need to do moving forward by any means necessary. That's my
mm.
take. That's my take on that, man.
So, so let me ask you a question. In the United States, do they also do the same things, like forcing people to become gay?
Yeah, you can say that. I mean, they attempt to. They can't do it to the extent that they attempt to do it. Because I'm not even saying that they can do it over there. It just requires leadership to stand up and say, we're not going to go with this. And then for the people behind the leadership to have enough backbone and support their leadership enough to say, you know what, if basically when everything, as they say, when the dominoes fall or when the rubber meets the road, all those sayings simply means when the pressure comes, we're going to stand with our leadership. We're not going to bail and sell each other out. That's historically been the problem with Africa specifically, since we're speaking about Africa. It's selling each other out,
Mm,
you
mm,
have to know your own worth. You have to know your own value. When you know your own value, nobody else can tell you your value. So basically, that's what has to take place. So going back to America, yeah, they push these certain agendas all the time. They do the same thing over here. Now, the reason why I say it's not quite the same, I give you a case, a good point rather. We know when the pandemic took place, and it was all this. You may not know, but every state over here at some point went under lockdown, and the government, they were forcing, especially if you work for the government, but also if you work for many different major organizations and even some smaller organizations, they was pushing for people to take what I call the jab. You can't say certain words on the internet no more, but you know what the jab is. They was
I know.
pushing for people to take the jab. I'm gonna
Okay.
speed up a little bit. So what's happened now, 2.5, 3 years later, is that those people who were fired from their jobs, who said, we're not doing this, those people who basically said, I'll quit my job first, I'll go to another job. Those people who said, it's my body and you're not gonna tell me what I'm gonna put in my body. Bottom line, those people who took a stand, now places like the state of New York, they are going back and they are repaying all those people for not only them firing them, but also the time they lost. And it's lawsuits that are being against basically the establishments, the jobs, and the places of work, as well as there are some things pending even with the government where they are basically having to now not only acknowledge that this was a mistake in a lot of different ways, but they have to actually pay and compensate these people, because those people stood their ground. So, that's my thing. You have to do it. You have to be ready to willing to lose something. It don't. It's not even funny, but the sad state of people and how vulnerable they are, meaning how easily they are to be moved in one direction or another, like cattle, umbu.
Mm,
They are
mm.
so easy to
Ng'ombe.
umboga. Oh, umboga.
Ngombe, no, ngombe.
Nonge,
Cow
nonge,
is
nonge.
ngombe.
NBOWE, right?
It's ngombe. It's
G.
NGO.
All right.
Ngombe.
All
Yeah.
right. All right.
So,
So they are so easily to be moved like cattle, one way or to another. People say, well, I had to have a job. Man, you got so many jobs over in America. Man, I mean, other places, I can't speak for those. But over in America, it's like you got so many different ways you can make money. It's like, stop it. But people don't want to do what's uncomfortable for them just for a little
mm,
bit or whatever time's necessary. They'll risk killing themselves because of what they know, as opposed to standing up for what's right. So
okay.
again, over here, they do the same things. They try to do the same things. Fortunately, there are some things in place where you can push back a little easier. And then, the biggest thing is we don't have the outside or big brother tyrant that attempt to do things on such a level where this government have to conform to the world. That's just where we are universally now. At one point in time, America. The reason why America got started is because it was running away from the tyranny from the Europeans over in Europe,
Okay.
and so that's just historical, the cycle of history and things of that nature. But
Okay.
hopefully, I answered your question. You do have those things that go on, but people always got to stand up and take a stand. And maybe to even simplify that answer is that a lot of things happen here that I am not proud of, and that I
Mm,
was not in agreement with, but it's because of people, not only in other parts of the world, but here too, they're so easily steered like cattle that guess what? They have
mm,
rules here that they didn't used to have here because you have these evil people that are in places with other powers that are trying to push these
mm,
worldwide agendas to destroy
mm,
humans. So, I mean,
mm.
yeah, you have the same thing that go on here. Not to the degree where people are going to starve or people are not going to get certain aid because technically America's not looking for aid, but I'm
But
pretty
the
good.
thing is, can I ask you? There's a quick question I want to ask you. Now, I see them a lot in movies, and people talk about these things a lot. That American presidents, they're only puppets for the people who have more power. Is that true?
Absolutely, that's true, man. You have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself, how is it possible? First of all, the whole American dream is a damn lie. The whole
It's a
American
dry, yeah.
dream, yeah, it's a lie. The whole American dream is a lie. You know,
Mm,
just anybody can't become president. It's bullshit. If just anybody could become president, then it's impossible for every single president that's
mm.
ever ruled be blood related in some way in America. Even Obama, he's blood related to all the other presidents that have been, in place. So that should
They
tell
have all.
any,
They all have the same thing in common.
yeah,
Exactly.
because
Okay.
again, that goes to these world powers have done what we call colluded. That just simply means they've come together, they've conspired. They are working together to put together, formulate a system, and it's all at war against the people. They don't have our best interest in mind. That's why I don't give a fuck about nobody's government. I always say that, and I'm very strong about that. I follow laws of nature. I do right by my fellow man. I'm not going to walk around disrespecting and doing any harm to anyone. That's not my intention. But we don't need governments at all because the governments have proven that they're not here for us. And I don't care where that government is. I have a
Mm.
book. You be called government the biggest scam in history. I'll get it. I'll just show you to you real quick.
Okay.
So yeah, this book right here, government,
That's what government. Okay.
government, the biggest scam in history.
Okay. I
And I
see it. I
mean,
see it.
yeah, I mean, and I like that book because it shows you how all these governments are more alike than they are different. Even if it's Nazi Germany or America, they're all the
Mm.
same. They try to trick us into believing that one is better than the other and one is for the people and one is not. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. They all are against the people. So that's my
Yeah.
thing.
Well said. So I think now there's this problem going on, like the war, like you spoke about the Nazism going on in the world, people discriminating others, thinking that they are better than others. That's what's going on right now. Though it's an economic war, but all in all, those are the things going on which have been going on way back. Like I've been following up on this Russian and Ukraine war.
Okay.
So I actually never understood what was the cause of that war because I don't think that Ukraine entering through NATO would have been the cause, but Poland is also under NATO, but you never seen Russia, and it's close to Russia. You never seen Russia going to war with Poland, so ever. But now this narcissism which is going on, the Ukraine president is actually a Nazi. These people like this guy from Germany. What do you call this guy who wanted to rule the world? This Hitler. So he's just like Hitler. You understand? So I just came to realize that the country so corrupt, the country with who don't want religious people to practice their religion, that's Ukraine, is being supported by the US, mostly by the US. You understand? And they are losing the war. They're not even seeing that, but maybe they know it, but they just that they don't want to reveal it to you people. But the thing is, how can we take a stand, we as black people? How can we take a stand to oppose this narcissism going on, to oppose this uh, undermining of our government's authority, that they are the ones to give us whatever, they are the ones to set up the rules for our countries. We are self-governed, but why are they have? What do you see is the best way for us to take a stand? Because individually, it will never happen. You have been here in Africa before. You have ever been to Tanzania. Though they lie to you that it's a peaceful country, but it's not. We're just full of cowards. People who don't want. We are all just ignorant. We know where the problem is, but we can't. We're just afraid. We're just cowards. A lot of people who around here just afraid to face the reality that the direction we are going is not good. They know that the direction is not good, but they can't act on it. So, to your experience, because you moved a lot of countries more than I do. To your experience, what do you think would be the best way for us to take a stand against these oppressors
Wow.
who come who come and dictate on what we should do and what we shouldn't do,
Mm-hmm.
who we should support and who we shouldn't support?
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the best way for us, like for us Africans with kids at school who don't want our kids to become gay, who want our kids to to stand on our morals, the African morals? What do you think is the best way? Because you are close to the Western people. What do you think is the best? What do you think that we should do in order to stop these things from happening, from going on actually? Because they've already started happening. It's just that we want a way to stop them to spread all over the countries, most especially the African countries, East African countries. Go on.
Thank you for that question. My first response is education, and not in the sense of going to anyone's school, because a school system is just an arm, it's just an extension, it's just another part of a government. But
Yeah.
it starts in the home. It starts by teaching the people and family members about what your history is. Then, once you know your history, then you can move to world history. But you don't need to move into world history until you know your own history, you know. And what am I speaking of is that there's a saying, if you don't know your history, then you're bound to repeat, history. So if you don't know the trials, the problems, the trouble, the obstacles that you have been presented in the past, if you don't know the ways that you were tricked in the past, how are you going to keep from being tricked the same way in the future? Give you a good example. It's just like, we don't even have to go all the way back to the first flu of 1919 that they call the Spanish flu. We can
Mm,
go to what we call here in America the Tuckasegee Airman experience, where they took specifically black people and they tested syphilis on them. Um, Black people, just by their experience, now I'm speaking more of America, but this is just for the example, just by their experience here in America, they should be so fast to question anything that's coming from the governments who have a history of always plotting, making a plan to harm and to hurt the people. So
mm,
go on a broader scale. In Africa, we know historically who have always come in and attempted to do some type of harm to the people. So why do we continue to deal with these people? It's the same thing that I was saying earlier when I said they just need to cut ties with these European and actually foreign countries. One thing about Africa on presentation, Africa don't need nobody outside of its borders. And when I say borders, I'm not speaking of Tanzania. I'm speaking outside of the mega land of Africa, the continent as they call it. So cut ties. There's gonna be bloodshed when you make a decision like that. And that's what you were saying when you were saying the people are cowards. I let you say that because me personally, I know that the people are more cowards here, especially as of recently, than they may be even over there. To me, our people haven't done anything since the 60s. We haven't done anything since the great Malcolm X, since the great Panthers movement, and since all those other, great movements that were part of the 60s and 50s and even the early 1900s, since then we have only gone backwards, not just as a society, but as a people as well when we talk about Black people. So the first thing is education. You have to know who you are. That's why I don't fuck with religion, because religion has been that arch enemy, as I say, as we say, the religion is just like the government. As a matter of fact, the religion is actually an extension and a part of the government. The people don't know it. Religion was created to keep people in what I call mental slavery, to keep them controlled. I call it mental warfare, just simply meaning we might not be battling a physical war, but up in the mind, it's easier. They say, even after slavery, they said the real slavery started over here in America when they took the chains off. When they took the chains off, because they had the mind of the people. And that's why everything that works from a government standpoint is an attack on your mind. So you have to know your history. You have to know who have been for you in the past and who have been against you in the past. And once you know who are your allies, who are your enemies, you can move forward. A lot of people want to talk about economics and, oh, how we need to own our own. Fuck that shit, man. I ain't saying you don't need to have that, but why the fuck am I gonna give somebody some money who don't even know who they are? You know what I'm saying? It don't make sense. They just keep repeating that cycle. That's what they want you to believe. That's what they want you to follow. They want you to basically think you get money and then you can change everything. Nowhere in history have things ever been changed starting with money. Look it up. Nowhere. It always starts by power first. It always starts by power first. That means people make a stand, they go get what's theirs, they keep people away from that's trying to take what's theirs, and then when they have the power, then come the respect. And then once you have the respect, you can put the business and plans in place to take care of the community and the people, etc. So, I don't talk about how, oh, well, we need to start our business. We only need to support each other. Man, that stuff should come instant. That should come instinctively. What we need to do is we need to make a stand by first educating ourselves, knowing history, knowing who's our enemies, knowing that all these religions are what we call sun worship. All these religions came out of Europe, and then Europe got its basis from a lot of old ancient leadings in Africa, whether it be Egypt, whether it be the Nile, whether it be Ethiopia. They borrowed that stuff, and the reason why a lot of these religions don't even make sense when you really study it, because these Caucasians, these Europeans, they was just trying to put stuff together and make it make sense, as they say, because they didn't understand it all. And that's why hardly none of it makes sense now. So again, know who you are, know who are your enemies, free your mind, live in harmony with nature and your mankind. You don't need no book to tell you how to live. Children come into this world and they naturally know what's good and what's bad. You don't need a book to tell you how to live. That's what they have us controlled and confused about as a people. So, yeah, I mean, we got to take a stand. It's education first, and that education starts in the home, and that's why it's so important to have children with the white women. I mean, with the the right women, and have and the women have children with the right men, because you all have to have that foundation of agreement on certain things. If you got one woman that want to teach the child one thing and another man that want to teach the child another thing, then it already starts off in chaos. I'm not saying that there's no hope, but the foundation is not good. So that's what we need to start. We need to start just knowing who we are. I commend and I think so much of Africans that y'all know y'all tribes. Black people over here in America, we don't even know where we come from. We still trying to figure that shit out. That's deep. So again, man, it starts in the home. It starts in the home. It starts in the home. And then once you raise young kings, young queens to be a king inside, to stand on their convictions, meaning, the things that they feel strong about. And once you've done that, you can't shake those people. You can't easily influence these people. The
So,
generations become weaker and weaker and weaker. And that just gives the people in power right now more control because they know it don't take much to control people. It took more back then, believe it or not. I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna wrap it up. Well, not, I mean, we can keep talking, but I'm just saying I'm gonna stop talking and let you talk again. But it took more for them to control the people back in the day. The further you go back, the more power it took to control the people. So back in the 60s, it took a hell of a lot. Back in the early 1900s, it took a whole lot. Back in the slave eras here in America, you got a guy named Nat Turner who led what we call a revolt, meaning a war, a uprising against all the plantation masters. They don't do that shit here. That's why they gave people Martin Luther King. I did say I was going to wrap it up, but I am wrapping it up. Martin Luther King is exactly what they wanted, and that's why they make his image so big in Kubasana all across the world. That's why you got people all across the world now thinking that they can march for freedom. You can't goddamn march for freedom. You gotta fight for freedom, man. You just can't shout for freedom. You gotta fight for freedom. But see, Malcolm X, in the way he was built, they knew if the people got that, then the people would be free to move and do whatever was necessary by any means necessary for righteousness. So that's where it starts at, man. That's where it starts at. Another thing I was going to say in terms of knowing yourself, knowing what's the right religion, knowing what to believe and how to live your life on a code. Because also, if you knew some of the great things about life in terms of what we call eternity, and you weren't so caught up in the heaven or hell. Again, I'm talking about religion now. It's a reason why they give you a religion. It's a reason why in these books they tell you honor and follow your government. Because if you follow your government, then you're doing the right thing, even if the government is telling you to do the wrong thing, because they're keeping you from standing up. But if you knew that dying was not the end of your existence, but it was just a transition, and who knows, you might be here in another lifetime, then you wouldn't be so scared, or as you would say, ngopasana, when it comes to standing up and not being a coward. You see how that works? You see how that works? That's how they use that religion tool. They use it to control you, because if you believed in reincarnation, then you'll be like, I'm ready to do this thing. I'm ready to do it, because you can't destroy energy. You can't destroy me. I can only transition and come back and get it right while we do this thing. But they got people fearing for their lives. They got people thinking that if you do anything against a government, against someone that's in leadership, then you're evil, and then you're going to go to a hell. And nobody wants to go to a hell. Those that believe in hell. Those that don't believe in a hell, you can't control them. Go ahead.
so I got your points. They are very nice. Uh, but I want to add something on the part of religion and slavery. Back in the days, before, we never had religion actually. My grandfathers, if you ask them, did you have religion way back? No, it was introduced. You understand? This
Yes.
was introduced in order to colonize and to get into people's heads. You get it? So people who never came in direct rule, so they had to use missionaries to come and soften the African people back in the days. So this is the history we used to do. This is the history they taught us because I started in Tanzania, in both Tanzania and Uganda. So when you go to Uganda, they have another syllabus. They teach you different history compared to what they teach you here in Tanzania. So
Okay.
our history is we used to know we never had religion. We used to have our own beliefs, our own our own. We used to believe in an ancestral. We had an ancestral beliefs back in the days. There was no Islam. There was no Christianity. Mind you, both the Arabs and the Europeans, they came here for slave. In Bagamoyo, there are Arabs who used to come here for slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They used to come inside and talk to the chiefs. You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
these things of believing in leaders, they are here in Africa. Okay, okay, things of leaders taking sides with outsiders. This began way back since the days of slavery. You understand? So
Yeah.
when those people who came, who never used direct rule meaning that someone coming to your country and takes control without any, he uses force. Those who never use direct rule, they used to use force to get whatever they wanted, like the Germans. The Germans used to use force. They come, they fight a war, and they annex certain region. They stay there. They put there the base. But they came these British people. You understand? They used an indirect rule, meaning they had to use their words to convince you to believe them that they are right. So they used that, and they also used religion to just, I think, to enslave our minds that we
Tupac.
have to, yeah, we have to be Christians in order to go to heaven. You have to believe in some things. But when you look into deep about this religion issue, that's why we have different books. I said it earlier in the other session, the video, the stream we had last time. I told you that we have different type of books, Bibles. We have religions. We have a Christian religion. We have the Catholic. We have the Protestant. We have the Seventh Days. All those preach you that Jesus is the Savior. You understand? But when you look at their books, they're totally different. The Christians of Seventh Days, they use the Old Testament. The Catholic, they use the New Testament, and the Protestant. So what's wrong with the Old Testament? The Old Testament and the Quran, they're all the same. They have the similarities, they have the similar rules, they have the similar stories on what went back. You understand? Everything is said to the Old Testament, and you look at the Quran, it's always the same. Most everything is the same. Even in the Quran, they acknowledge that there's another prophet coming called Jesus. So these things of religion, I'm not religious. You forgive me if I say that because I'm not religious. I was born as a Catholic, but I'm not religious because I read different types of books. They all, they all have the same conclusion. You understand? So for us, for the whatever is going on right now, my point of view, whatever is going on right now, if you if you if you want to teach this new generation, you just waste your time. Right now, we have the existings of technology. Back in the days, people never used to have technology. Whatever they wanted to get, they had to go and listen to a story from an elderly person. But right now, if I want to know anything, I can use Google.
True.
Even if I'm in the paper and I have a phone, I can also use Google to know whatever thing I want. So this new generation, I don't think it has to start from the leadership. The
You say
leadership.
it has to start from who?
The leadership.
Oh, the leadership. Yeah, yeah.
Leadership. Because
Well, no, 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 no. I hear you. I'm gonna let you keep talking. Go ahead.
when when you look at the leadership here in Africa, like minority know what's right for their people, but the majority they follow what they know is best for their people by giving rules by the Western countries. Okay. Now, recently you told me that Ghana has gone gay. The leader, the leader, he's the one who accepted the country. He has seen the country that maybe it's right for their people to become gay. You see, but these things, it's charity. This thing they tell you, charity begins from home. What you say, charity begins from home. You have to teach the basics yourself. You have to teach the basics your kids that this is right, this is wrong. We grew up in a families way back when your parent tells you that don't play beyond that block, you listen. Don't play beyond that block. But these days, kids have rights. You can't discipline the kid. Yeah? Even these days, even here in Africa, disciplining a kid in some private schools, it's not allowed.
Really?
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm giving you that's for sure. Like in private schools, the private schools in Uganda, some private schools teaching this Cambridge syllabus, disciplining a kid, it's not part of their rules. They have, is it the shrinks? You talk to they send you to a shrink. You talk to a shrink. But now, you see, they are in they are practicing Western culture, the Western types of teaching. That's what they are teaching. They're teaching the kids at school.
Queller.
This begins from, like, for me. I will take, like, today that I want to take my kid to school. I will have to look for the best school. What's the best school? Okay, you'll find that there's a certain international school. It's the best. It's teaching well. Okay, but when you go to that school, when you try and make follow up, you find that there are a lot of things they're teaching, and they are not the kids. They're teaching the kids which are not supposed to be taught at the early age. Okay, they know they're supposed to know them because they're they want them to be brainwashed. You understand? So I think that we all said it all. When you say that we should teach the kids here at home about the history, let me give you the reality. The kids know their history. The kids are well taught. They well know that That's why we take them to the villages to meet their grannies, to stay with their grannies, to be taught what they are supposed to know in the village. You get me?
I
But
get
now
you. Nakuelewa.
this things are actually they have changed. Eh? Now, when you oppose the Western type of ruling here in Africa, I can give you an example of presidents who were assassinated by trying to get Africans together, meaning that they wanted to unite Africans, not ask for any aid, because we are capable of living without any aid from outside countries. We are capable of living with your own resources. We have a lot of resources. Like take an example, like in my country, we have number of resources. The government should utilize the resources to get to you can get money in exchange of the resource, because what what is the help of that aid that you don't have money enough money to run your government until you have aid outside the country. But you can collect the same amount of money you're begging outside the country, inside yourself. You can collect, and it's going to be more than enough. Trust me. Eh? So what Museveni said was actually true, though they say that he's supporting the Russian president. But that's not the case. In reality speaking, he said it. He said it all. He told those people he imprisoned them for life until they get pregnant. It wasn't a joke, but he grew up not knowing that there's something called the alphabet people. Uh, he never grew up with them. You understand?
Right.
So who is ruling? The people who is ruling right now, they shouldn't go. They shouldn't go. And there's no point that without your aid, I won't survive. No, without your aid, I will still survive because I've been surviving. I've been surviving before with even without your aid. You get me? Even without your aid. So the thing is, uh, we have said it all. We have said it all, but it is up to us to know where we're heading, where we want to go. You understand? If we see that the gay people they are the more powerful in this world, go to their countries. I can give you an example of last year I think it was last year or this year we had the World Cup final. It was France against Argentina. Now we had a debate that there are people who are saying that it's Africa playing against European countries because France is full of African players. You understand? I said,
Yeah.
no, that's not Africa. You also have Ghana, Cameroon, who are playing for Af- for African countries, representing their countries. You want to tell me you are rooting for France to win because it's full of black people? No. Why don't those black people play for their country? Because they play those of Mbappe. Tell me one name of one France name called Mbappe. Because we all rush to go in Western countries.
Right.
You leave your country because if all those players go to their homeland or home countries, it will be one African country winning the World Cup. It's just an example I'm giving you. It's just like we are not building our African countries. We want to build elsewhere. A lot of rich people, black whatever, black people. Then the outside, you can find those of Jay-Z. Eh? You know all those musicians who are rich. If If they give us if the African Americans, the African richest people, if they give us an example, they come and invest. They have the money to invest here in Africa. They can invest and give, and they can even you can even invest in African countries. Give us, you can say that now it's time for us to go back to our our homeland. Okay? We invest in Africa. We invest in gold. We invest in Tanzanite. We invest in minerals. We invest in uranium. We invest in everything. You see, you'll find that if they do that, African countries won't ask aid from any European countries, and that's what I think that's what the white people don't want. These black people in Europe to move to go outside their to go to Africa. You understand? To go invest in Africa. When you are rich and you're in Europe, they'll treat you differently from others. That's true. Even here, when you are rich and you are here, they'll treat you different. So they don't want you to invest in your country where you're from. They don't want you to invest in your motherland. This is your backbone. This is where this is where you came from. But if you do that investment, if you do that, like if you just a prayer example, you just you come here and you invest in maybe education, transportation, you invest in the resources which are here. Let me tell you, the currency, African currencies will be more better than even other European countries. You get me? Because we have all the resources here. Instead of us waiting for because what the Western people do, they come and they give you investment. They invest in you, but they have something they want. They don't just give you an investment if they don't want, if they have nothing, they are going to expect in return. They're investing something, but they are getting more money than what they're investing. More money is allowed to go outside the country to Western countries. So when we invest as when we have the only we Africans like what Gaddafi proposed that what made him killed is that we have the strong if we stay strong, we will remain strong and we will stand strong together as one. We don't need to ask for aid in the European countries.
So let me
Not
ask
even mm,
so let me ask you this. Um, I want to make sure because it's something you said earlier. I want to make sure that I understand it correctly. So you feel like that the once the leaders get right, the people will follow, or because I feel like I heard you say that, and I just want to make sure that's what you said and that's what you meant if that's what you were saying, um, or
if
what?
the leaders do right, even the people will do right. Because I can give an example, which is it's a transparent example. Our late President Magufuli opposed this type of ruling. He opposed the gay people. Not only that, he opposed the gay people. He opposed the too much aid the Western countries want to give to this country. But what happened in the end? He died, and no one knows what happened. You understand? But most people know that he was killed because he was touching most basically the Westerners and the rich people who are getting rich, not honestly, but they're getting rich via maybe drug money. You understand? That's what you did. We should have because Africans we are believe they always believe in their leaders.
They always believe in who?
Their leaders, the ones who
Oh,
follow.
okay. So let me say this. All
Mm,
right. Well, we disagree on that, and I think you made some of my points of why we well. Why? Okay, I disagree. We disagree. I ain't gonna just basically. I'm thinking because I know I can say some things, and I can basically put words in your mouth, and I don't want to put words or thoughts in your mind. But I'm gonna say what I have to say. We
Okay.
disagree on that, and if you think about it, it goes back to the earlier part of this video and our conversation where we talked about we have to recognize no one's coming to save us. And a leader is essentially the savior that they've given you. We have to recognize that these leaders have been put in front of us. The same system that's
Mm,
here in America is over there because we've allowed this thing to grow worldwide on that scale. What am I talking about? Just like I said, all of the presidents are blood related. Do you think any of them are really going to do anything in your favor?
mm,
Okay. So just like when you made the point, you said, well, our youth, they know their history. And I have to agree with you there because when I speak with people there, they know they do. You're right. They know their history. They know something ain't right, but they know their history. They even know what you're saying about religion. They say, hey, we used to worship the trees and the rivers and the sky. And guess what? We had more than enough. Everything was provided. And then when they stopped worshiping nature, and they let the Europeans and the Caucasian and the West and just all the outsiders, because it's just not Europeans, it's India and Arabs, like you spoke about. When they let them come in, then that's when they start losing everything.
mm.
So,
They're
but you
brainwashed.
got, huh?
They are brainwashed by the leaders.
Exactly. But you have to, who brainwashed them? That's what you got to remember. That's why you can't leave it up to a leader because a leader will sell you out. That's what leaders have done. All of them have sold you out. There was a guy named Dr. Sabi,
Mm,
bless and rest his soul because this guy is just a super genuine, passionate, loving guy. And he knew how to heal people by using herbs as medicine. So he actually went to all around Africa. I'm about to say to every African country, but he went all around Africa into most African countries, so much to the point where he made the statement after seeing all these African leaders. He said, people, your leaders have betrayed you. And it was only one African president that he found that was willing to allow him to basically teach and show the people how they can heal themselves with food so that they can be healed from specifically AIDS and other diseases. Those leaders didn't have no interest in doing that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we all are being monitored. America is not stupid. Europe is not stupid. Tanzania is not stupid. They know who don't believe in them and they know who believe in them. And the people that don't believe in them and that are willing to do what you and I are doing, they watch us. And so if you get to a certain point, they're going to try to make attempts on your life. That's what they did, and that's what they do, and that's what they've always done. And those leaders know that too. And that's why they do what they do in what we call compromise, simply meaning they look at it as, oh, I'm giving up something so that I can keep my own life. But a leader is supposed to be the first person to fall on the sword. A leader is supposed to be the first person to lay down their life. Just like in a home, a man is supposed to lay down his life for his family before everybody else, or whoever the well and the wealth of the wisdom in that home is. That should be the person that's preserved, and the strength should be the person that's going to keep things together and make sure that everybody else is safe. So what am I saying? These leaders have betrayed us. That's the same reason why they give you a Muhammad, a Jesus, and any other deity
Mhm.
is what we call them, or God, is because they want you to have someone to look to save you. It's the same thing with the leaders. They want you to look to these leaders to save you. It's more of us than it is the leaders. That's why it
Mhm.
starts with education. Because once we know what we're supposed to do and who we are, then the leaders are outnumbered. And they're going to be the ones on the run. They're going to be the ones that are going to try to do the right thing at that point. But guess what? At that point, you can't make the mistake of letting them back in because they had their chance. Now they have to be accountable for what they did and what they was not willing to do, and that is work in the best interest of the people. So, again, it's not the leaders that we have to look. I know that's your opinion, but I just wanted to come back again with that because, man, believing in these leaders is what got us in the place that we are today. And is how time and time again foreigners are able to come in and basically change the culture of the people because they start with changing the mind of the leader, whether it's by gifts, promises, security, whatever they have to do to say, you will be okay. Just give us your people. Then it gets to a point where it grows out of control, and now they're the one in power, and that leader is no more than a puppet,
Mhm.
and he or she is just doing what they want him to do or what they want her to do. So it's a lot of history where you can see how that happens time after time after time again. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a quick process because the education has to start first and foremost. Now, the process can happen quick inside of you, but we want it also to happen quick or change in other people also. But we have to remember it's more of us than it is of them.
Yeah.
There's one of my favorite orators that he used to make a statement, and an orator is a speaker, and his name is Freddie Hampton. And he actually used to listen and learn from Malcolm X, not in the same time because they didn't live at the same time, but actually, well, he was too young. But basically, when Malcolm, he studied Malcolm when he got older, and that's how he became a great speaker. But Freddie Hampton, he used to say, power to the people because the people are the power. Power to the people because the people are the power. And
Now,
that's what you have to remember. We are the power, man. They want us to think that we are helpless, and that's why they want us to look to them. We have to get to these children and let them know that you are the power. You're the one that can change this because things will always go the way it's going now if we wait on the leaders to do it. The leaders have showed us what they're going to do, and that's nothing for us.
now, there's the okay. I hear you, brother. The thing is, the way we have reached here, and the stage which we reached here in Africa, I think the most basically the change is going to become. It has to happen by force.
Yeah. Everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world.
Happen by force. Without chaos, there is no change
There you go.
because
Without conflict. Absolutely. It has to be.
without without an outcome of a conflict, there won't be no change.
That's correct. That's right. Hevo.
Because as we speak, I might be supporting the president. This other reason, my colleague might not be supporting the president. I might not be supporting the president. My colleague might be supporting the president. Now, there's that conflict. There's that conflict of interest. What do I want, and what does my colleague want? What does my neighbor want? Because we're all Africans. We have to fight first for what's right in order to get what's right.
Right.
That's the only way. Because we discussed this, I remember it was legacy. It was off record. If you do remember, I mentioned this. Without chaos, there won't be change. If you do remember.
You said women care. What did you say?
Without chaos, there wouldn't be no change.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, I agree.
We discussed this before. I think it was we were in legacy. We discussed some. We just opened. We just shared some ideas. But the way the stage we have reached here is that most of the people who oppose the leadership will wait for someone to start something so that they, they all they all have to express their feelings when someone starts something. Like today, I can't wake up and start something. I know that I'll be alone. Even even when we reached, if I'm to protest, I'll be the only one walking. I'll be walking alone. Even if there's some people supporting me, I'll end up walking alone. People have to wake up.
That's right. And the way they wake up is by knowledge. The way they wake up, and to be honest with you, that starts within. That starts with a desire to know more. I'm not into trying to convince people of what's real and what's the truth. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of energy. But there are a lot of people that have questions, and some people do need a little nudge in terms of
Exactly.
straighten up their backbone.
Yeah.
Yeah, more gonna come when they see that hey, this is the right way and it can be done. There will always be more followers than leaders, but it's important for us to make sure that the young ones, if they're our children, our nieces, our nephews, or whatever, our family, friends, it's important for us to share with them what the truth is. And once they have the truth, then they apply it. They do with what they need to do with that truth. So that's what it takes. That's what it takes because we agree. Yeah, we don't have to keep saying, yeah, that's what it takes, man. It's been a good conversation. Anyone that I want you to post your comments. I want you to share what your thoughts are on what Albert, what myself was speaking about. I mean, hey, this is a platform that is an open platform. I want people to basically really start thinking about those things. Think about what my thoughts are and give me feedback in terms of, hey, do the people need to change their ways when it comes to thinking that money is the key? You get your money, then you change. When you get money, you just enhance, you just grow, you just make bigger who you really already are. And if you're a person that's not ready to do the right things that need to be done to free the people, then you just create another problem for the people, because you're not in the right mind. So, hey, but what's your thoughts on it? You gotta educate the people first. The people gotta know what's important first. They gotta know what's morally right. They have to know what their enemies will do and have done to them so they'll know who not to trust and who to trust, and they have to know how to build relationships. All those things they gotta know, they have to know, because once they know those things, then they can move in any area of their life, always assessing, always making the right decision of, do I deal with this person? Do I deal with this company? Do I go to this place or do I get away from it? Because once you know those things, you can identify those things everywhere in life, and it's going to help the people. So I'm not about tearing down or erasing history, because if you erase history, then you have no what I call reference point. You have nowhere to go back and look at where things went different and how things can be changed, where things went wrong and how things can be changed. That's another conversation where people, especially over here in America, I don't know so much about Tanzania, but they actually have had a lot of movements where they want to take away old monuments because it may show a symbol of racism and slavery. I say leave those things up. You know, I've said that you leave it up so the people can do their own history homework. If you take it down, then you don't even know where to start.
You understand? Exactly. Sawa sawa. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure, man. I comment. We got to get you to the point where you can start your own channel, and just do the things that you want to do with your channel. But I always, enjoy having you on. I know for the people's sake, you and I will come together and do more videos, and we'll talk about very soon the next video that we'll be doing.
Okay, I'll be glad to do it, sir.
All right, pour.
Oh,
Any thoughts? Any last thoughts?
no, man, we just said it all. So the person who's gonna listen, he has to listen. Lakini you have to listen. But we have to be honest with each other. Uh,
Yes.
we are the problem is we Africans, most especially the ones who are in the regime, in the government. Wow, people are committing right now. People are committing fraud and whatever. People are just filling their pockets, thinking that yeah, when I this regime will get over, I'll be rich or so. But that's not that's not, that's not the way we are. So take a step.
Oh,
In chaos, stability.
all right. Well, again, have a good day. Or I know it's Sasa Gioni. So
WhatsApp call.
say it.
WhatsApp call.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I think there's music.
Oh yeah, I'm playing something in the background just as we exit. But
So
is it
okay.
disturbing you? Is it disturbing you?
I know.
Okay.
I will call you. Call.
Okay. I'll do it. I'll do it. All right.
Bye, bye.